先生们，请入座。加州贸易理事会董事会长克莱特先生，加拿大驻上海总领事艾伟敦 ，CCBC 会员女士们、先生们，早上好，我是高世儒，加州贸易理事会的执行理事，很荣幸当您今天的主持人。Ladies and gentlemen, CCBC members and guests, welcome. I'm Sarah Koudelakos, the Executive Director of the Canada-China Business Council, and I'm pleased to be your Master of Ceremonies today. Welcome to CCBC's 38th AGM Policy Conference. We have an extensive program for you today, and to kick things off, please welcome CCBC's Chairman, Peter Croy. 现在邀请克莱特先生上台。
Council Weldon-Epp, Nishaman, Tenchaman, ladies and gentlemen, messieurs, dames, merci d'être venus en aussi grand nombre. Today we have 480 people here today. It's the largest policy conference we've had in a number of years, and we're delighted. We're always trying to organize this event to maximize learning and networking, and we've changed the format this year, and I think we're going to do a lot more of both. We've expanded the policy conference to include 7 different panels, which deal with important issues to both Canadian and Chinese companies, to give a greater variety of experts to learn from. Some of the panels are targeted at doing business in China. Others are Chinese companies looking to invest in Canada. But both are interesting, and all are open to you to choose. In the room with us, we have an amazing diversity of attendees, from global multinationals to entrepreneurial startups and everything in between. We have also many current Chinese investors, and we're hopeful many future Chinese investors in the room. I know they are interested in getting to know other Canadians in the room. Comme d'habitude, cet événement ne se fait pas sans l'appui de notre consulat et leur équipe. Our team has worked closely, and we support the tremendous help we get from Weldon-Epp and his team at the Canadian Consulate, as well as provincial trade offices, Shanghai Food Association, Shanghai Financial Association, in reaching out to investors. And for this event, we have created a special partnership with the Global CEO Union, which has brought 50 of its members, which we'll learn more about, who will learn more about Canada today. Thanks to this group and its secretary, Vivian Chen, and for their hard work for helping us promote Canada. Our joint panel in the afternoon with the Global CEO Union will be reaching 100,000 Chinese through online streaming. Nous avons amplement de temps pour le réseautage qui se fera autour des pauses de santé. We've built ample time for networking. You'll find the coffee breaks outside this ballroom on the 3rd floor, where the SME and e-commerce panels will be taking place, and a networking lunch as well. Je tiens à remercier McCarthy Tétrault, qui a pris le leadership à nous appuyer pendant cette journée de conférence. Et sans le rapport, on ne serait pas ici en autant de grandes organisations et de qualité. Our sponsors for this conference are McCarthy Tétrault, and you will hear from our Premier Jean Charest in a moment. But we have many other sponsors too, too numerous to mention here. You will find them, however, listed in our programs and on the screens. Please join me in thanking them. And now, without further ado, I would like to introduce you an old friend of the CCBC, an old friend of China, the Honorable Jean Charest, who will lead us today. Please everyone join me in welcoming
Thank you very much, Chairman Wright, Mr. Consul General. I'd also like to recognize the délégué général du Québec en Chine, M. Jean-François Lépine, qui a été nommé récemment, et qui connaît très bien ce pays pour avoir été journaliste ici lors des années 80. Mesdames et messieurs, c'est avec beaucoup de joie que je reviens à cette assemblée annuelle qui réunit les leaders d'affaires à la fois du Canada et de la Chine. 大家好，很高兴来到上海。In my previous role, thank you. Please don't get too enthusiastic because that's pretty much the limit of my Mandarin for today. In my previous role as Premier of Quebec, and now as a partner for the law firm of McCarthy & Pitcher, I've had the privilege of attending several meetings of the Canada-China Business Council. Every edition has been outstanding in content and in helping to build stronger relations between China and Canada. Every edition, by the way, has had its own particular context. Last year, we met in the days following the election of the new Liberal government of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The change in government generated hope and enthusiasm about our relationship with China. There was much talk of a reset. It's not an exaggeration to say that our meeting this year will have a historic dimension to it, as it coincides with the first official visit of Prime Minister Trudeau to China, as he will attend the G20 meeting. And we will also have the honor of hearing him speak tonight at our banquet. The global context for our meeting is always very, very significant. If anything, the changes we continue to experience globally make a more compelling case for us to intensify our relationship. Since we met last year, the world economy continues to experience slow growth. A big part of that story is the transformation of China's economy towards consumer-led economic growth. The point here for the world and for Canada is that whatever happens in China, given the size of its economy and its role as an engine to economic growth, matters to all of us. For Canada, a country rich in natural resources in energy, mining, forestry, agri-food, and in particular, the Chinese transition for us in our country has a measurable impact. It's also obvious that our respective economies are complementary to each other. And as the Chinese economy transitions, we become even more so as Canada offers opportunities to work together, notably in the area of financial services, education, health, green technology, transport, and also, for Canada, this is important, in the area of culture and entertainment. Taking into account the global context, it's impossible to ignore the broader political environment, and in particular, the potential effect it will have on trade patterns that are the lifeblood of our relationship. The surprising outcome of the Brexit vote and its impact on the future of Europe, that represents 24% of the world's GDP, will have a yet-to-be-determined effect on the world economy. Conflicts in the Ukraine and Syria continue to have destabilizing effects as the migrant crisis persists. Terrorism, whether in Europe, Africa, the Middle East, Asia, North America, is changing the way we manage security, the way we manage our borders, the way we manage immigration. In fact, it's changing the day-to-day lives. The successful outcome of the COP21 meeting in Paris has demonstrated something very important. It demonstrated that a cooperative relationship between China and the United States, two of the world's biggest emitters of greenhouse gas emissions, can allow mankind to make real progress on the issue of climate change. course, technological breakthroughs are going to continue to change our lives, whether it be robotics, artificial intelligence, or electric and driverless cars. And ladies and gentlemen, to add much color and entertainment to our lives, there is, of course, the American election campaign. Canadians are very close observers of what happens to our American neighbors, to our friends and allies. Canadians are very close observers because our vital interests are very much at play. Whatever the outcome of the U.S. election campaign, it is safe to assume that the posture of the next American administration on trade issues will be less open and more protectionist, no matter who gets elected. For both our countries, these events and the changes that they bring are extremely important. If we choose to develop a shared vision of our common future, the opportunities for both our countries will also be very significant. Canada is not a small country. Though we're only 36 million people, and what some would describe as being a population that is within the margin of error of the population of China, we're a member of the G7 and the G20 that will be held in a few days from now. And Canada is also among the 10 biggest economies in the world. We're blessed with abundant resources, but we are also, and most of all, a knowledge-based economy. We are rightfully recognized for the diversity of our population. 20% of the population of Canada, it is the highest of all the countries of the OECD, are not born in Canada. 46% of the population of the Greater Toronto Area, which is the fourth biggest city in North America, are not born in Canada. I am a visible minority in Toronto. 33% of the population of Montreal are not born in Canada. And when I say 20% of the population of Canada not born in the country, it compares to 13% in the United States. So the issue of diversity for Canada is very significant in regards to our relation with the outside world and with Asia and China in particular. Canada, it also has one of the best educated populations in the world, one of the best trained labor forces in the world. And we host students from all over, including 150,000 students from China. More importantly, and that is where our crucial interest lies, 60% of Canada's GDP is trade-related. Of all the countries and developed countries in the world, Canada is one of the countries that depends the most on trade to maintain its standard of living. Of course, the characteristic of that number is that it's strongly concentrated with our American neighbor. And yet we recognize how important it is for us to diversify our trade to areas of the world with strong economic growth. We share with China the ambition of opening new trade routes. For example, President Xi Jinping's ambitious vision of building the Silk Belt, Silk Road, stands out as one of the world's most forward-looking trade initiatives. The creation of the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, of which Canada, hopefully, will now become a member, as Prime Minister Trudeau has announced that we will be applying for membership, lends support to the broader vision of developing the infrastructure that will support trade and economic development in all of Asia and beyond. Canada is part of NAFTA. Canada is one of the 12 countries to have signed the TPP. But the best is yet to come, as we expect that Europe and Canada will both ratify and implement the Canada-Europe Trade Agreement, known as CETA, within the next year. This trade deal as the most advanced and the most progressive trade agreement we know of in the world, giving Canada privileged access to the most important consumer market, the richest consumer market in the world, Europe, with 500 million people. If we set aside the TPP for the moment, because its future is, admittedly, very uncertain, and we look at where we stand, in addition to NAFTA and the Canada-Europe trade agreement, combined with other trade agreements, we have in Canada unfettered access to 60% of the world's economy. Canada's destiny is to be a world trade hub for goods, for services, for investment, for the mobility of people, and also the mobility of labor. But the missing piece to Canada's trade puzzle is Asia. All of Asia, and China in particular. Thus, the importance of our meeting this year, and the importance of the Prime Minister's visit to China. For China, the changing European and North American landscape means that more than ever before, its renewed relationship with Canada presents new opportunities. If you look at it closely, it even presents a counterpoint to what is happening elsewhere in the world, and in particular, to what is happening in the United States. And this is an opportunity for Canada, who wants to have a more open door with China. Defining that relationship in the new, slower growth economy will be the challenge of Prime Minister Trudeau and his counterparts. As the theme of our conference says, ladies and gentlemen, is well chosen as it proposes a time for new directions. 谢谢大家。
Very much, Mr. Charest. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Canada's Consul General in Shanghai, Mr. Weldon F. Heinrich, to bring greetings from the Canadian government. Welcome, Weldon.
Chairman Royce, Mr. Charest, distinguished guests, Mesdames et Messieurs, 女士们、先生们，早上好。Good morning. It's a special privilege this morning to be joining you and representing the Government of Canada, and to be welcoming the CCB, its members, its partners, friends from Canada and China back to Shanghai for this AGM and policy conference. And let me begin by thanking, in particular, the CCBC, Sarah, her team here on the ground in Shanghai, Peter, for the fantastic collaboration and cooperation. I know the tremendous amount of work that goes into organizing this event every year. And it's just wonderful to have you back in Shanghai only 1 year later. We're looking forward to the day ahead. This year is special, and I think all of us are looking forward to welcoming the Prime Minister to Shanghai later this afternoon. You'll have to forgive me if I slip out of it early this morning, and to the banquet, to the reception this evening. When the CCBC met here about a year ago, Mr. Trudeau had just been elected. Transitions take time, but generate plenty of policy discussion, and much of that is now beginning to land, and landing during this visit in particular. Beaucoup de travail préparatoire a déjà été entrepris et le dialogue est amorcé. Les premières rencontres entre le Premier ministre et le président Xi l'automne dernier lors du G20 en Turquie, des rencontres bilatérales auxquelles les ministres Morneau, Freeland, Dion et McCallum ont participé, des visites au Canada des secrétaires du parti de Guangdong, Chongqing et Jiangsu, et la visite du ministre des Affaires étrangères au cours de la dernière année. New working relationships are steadily being established, and the President is locking this in at a leader's level, with a regular high-level dialogue to guide the relationship forward. During the same period, despite challenges in the global economy and new pressures in certain segments of the Chinese economy itself, Canada has been holding its own. Le commerce et les investissements bilatéraux ont augmenté au cours des 10 dernières années de 90% dans le cas des exportations chinoises vers le Canada et de 159% des exportations du Canada vers la Chine. Du côté des services, l'augmentation a été de 120% pour le Canada vers la Chine et de 146% pour la Chine vers le Canada. And latest two-way trade investment numbers are particularly interesting. If you look at Canadian exports to China during the first half of this year, an increase of 1.1%, even as Chinese imports in Canada have dropped by 1.2%. But this is interesting in particular because the larger macro picture is that this is happening against the backdrop where, as modest as 1.1% growth sounds, Chinese data shows that the global imports have dropped by 10.5%, and in a comparative sense, Canada is doing very well indeed. For tourism, the first half of this year saw an increase of 24.2%, a total of 700 plus tourists in 6 months. And more than 120,000 Chinese students in Canada today make a contribution of over $4 billion a year. We note with interest as well that in parsing the investment data, fastest growth today is found beyond the usual targets. In other words, beyond traditional vectors for investment from China to Canada, beyond energy, beyond mining, demonstrating traction as we urge Chinese investors to continue to diversify their view of Canada's value proposition. But we also know that for some of you, it has been a tough year. There's no doubt that access remains challenging in certain sectors. Access issues, I can say, after a year here in Shanghai and 4 years as Consul General in South China, access, both formal and informal, continues to frame much of the interaction between the Government of Canada Trade Commissioner Service Team and Canadian businesses active in China. We're aware that that continues to be a top concern. But while I'm delighted personally now to be able to buy fresh Canadian blueberries just around the corner from my apartment in Shanghai, there is progress. And we're delighted to see nearly 400% growth in Canadian pork exports to this market in the last year. We're all too aware that there's a lot of